Good morning and Happy New Year. You have tuned in to Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio as well as Facebook Live. I am your host, Kim, and I am just so excited. This is our first show of the year. Come on, give it up for us crossing over. And I'm telling you, I just believe that there is going to be a manifestation in such a great way for the people of God. I just believe that with all of my heart. For some of us, I mean, we're talking about we're long overdue. We have put in the time, we have kept the faith, and we are about to reap the rewards. We are about to reap the harvest that God has promised us. I don't claim to be a prophet of God. I'm just saying what I believe in my heart and what I believe in my spirit. So this is our first show. And those of you that watch Sister's Heart, that follow us on Facebook, you know that we were building up momentum. We talked about how 2017 was just, it was a stomping ground. It was a place of preparation for us. It truly was a season where we were getting prepared for what God has for us in 2018. So I'm hoping that even with this very first show for this year, that it's going to help you to get yourself some balance, help you to refocus your energy and truly hit the ground running, because that's really what it's all about. When you think about building momentum, you have to hit the ground running. I often say David ran towards Goliath, and we know that Goliath was a giant standing before David, and David didn't walk to him. David knew that he understood that I have to build momentum. I'm going to slay him, but I have to build momentum to get this thing, to get it strengthened. Okay. And that's where we want to be. We want to be strengthened in 2018. So if you are following us on Facebook, I post up there on my page as well as on Sister's Heart page, the topic for today, the thought of inspiration for today. And that one is, it's a good one. I think it's 5 principles of provision, 5 principles of provision. And I'm for sure that there are more. Okay. I'm for sure that, if somebody digs a little bit deeper, they're going to come up with some more. But I just want to share with you because of time. I want to share these 5 principles that the Lord was revealing to me when I was reading in His Word. And I posted up on Facebook the topic, not the topic, but the book that I'm coming from, and that's Genesis. For those of you that are following us via IntellectualRadio.com, is Genesis 22nd chapter, and it's the 1st through the 18th verse. And it blessed me greatly when I was reading it, because we all know the story, but there's principles there. And that's what I want to outline for us today. Okay. Again, 5 of the principles. Okay. So can I help someone today? Watch this. In 2018, here's my first thought. 2018, stop holding God accountable to provide for you in a place that He hasn't called you to. Stop holding God accountable. So often we move off and we do our own thing, and we find ourselves in a place where it's dry. It's a dry land, and there's no provision there, and we get upset because it's not working. We get disappointed because it didn't turn out the way we used to. And oftentimes we're in a place that God has not called us to. So let us stop. But that's not one of the principles, but that's just my thought right there. Stop holding God accountable to provide for you in a place that He hasn't called you to. And this leads me to the first provision. The first provision requires obedience. Obedience is required on your part, because God is leading sheep. He's not leading goats, and His Word helps us to understand that His sheep know His voice, and a stranger they will not follow. Strangers lead you to do strange things. So the first principle requires obedience. We find in the lesson that obedience was at the forefront of Abraham believing God, was at the forefront of him taking his son, which was his son that God had given to him, and to sacrifice this. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. You tell me that you're giving me this, but now you want me to sacrifice it to you. So it takes a high level. Watch this. It takes a high level of obedience. So that's the first principle. That's the first principle to your provision. Okay. Because remember, we want to get to provision, but we have to follow the steps. We have to follow the principles. Okay. And then the second step, or the second provision, it requires patience. It requires you as a believer to be patient. If you are truly trusting God, if you are truly believing what he's telling you to do, you could have sown a seed on March 9th of 2012, and you may not see a manifestation of that seed until July 9th, 2018. But you have to be willing to wait. You can't put it in the ground and then, because you don't see a result in an hour, decide you're going to go back to the ground and you're going to pull it up. You have to wait. And Abraham himself, he was patient. He was on this journey, right? Because God just told him to go. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take you to the place. But he was on his journey for 3 days. Now, can you imagine walking around for 3 days? You got this on your mind. You got this in your spirit that this is what you're supposed to do when you get there, but you don't even know where there is. You're just walking. And I'm for sure at some point, most of us would have said, you know what, I'm going to turn back around. I've been walking for a day. Nothing has come. After the second day, I'm going to turn back around. I don't hear God. I don't see God. Maybe this wasn't what he told me to do. Abraham did not get an answer, or he did not get shown where the place was until the third day. So it required patience on his part. Because understand this, right? These are things that provision is going to require. So the next thing that is required, and we find this again, if you look in the book from Genesis 20, the 22nd chapter, these were just some key points, like I said, that I pulled out from it. Another thing that is required for you to have your provision is your divine connections. Who are you connected to? Are they part of your destiny? Is their role necessary in your story? Is this a starring character? Is this a co-star? Is this just one of those actors that get killed off in the first scene? Are they part of your destiny? Have their season expired? I often say this, and this is truth. I don't care how long you keep milk in the refrigerator. I don't care how long you keep it in the refrigerator. Once that milk expires, it has expired. There's no turning around for that. It is what it is. It has expired. And so often we're trying to take people with us. We're trying to take people with us that are not supposed to go with us. We got people that are on our backs, and literally we are carrying them. They refuse to use their own legs. Sometimes these people are not supposed to go with us. And again, it talks about those divine connections, because Abraham, there was some men that was with him, some young men. The Bible calls them young men that was with them. But he told them, here, you stay here. They had gone as far as they could go with him. You stay here until we come back to you. Taking you over here with me may not be beneficial for me, because now it's not about you, but it's about me and my destiny. It's about me and where I got to go. So, you got to watch your divine connections, watch who you have with you, and be comfortable telling people, you know what, why don't you just stay here? Stay here for right now, and I'll see you when I come back. Because sometimes you got to go get what God has for you and come back. And now I'm going to just take a mental note, put a pin right there. And it reminds me of when Jesus told Peter to go and strengthen himself. And when you're strengthened, then come back and strengthen your brethren. Sometimes we're not good for anybody because we are not strong ourselves. And we have to step away for a minute, leave them behind. And I understand that those are your brothers. You love them and you've been with them all this time and you guys are learning each other. But go away, get yourself strengthened so you can come back. But understand your season and understand your time. So Abraham had to ask those young men, to just stay here for a minute. You've gone as far as you can go, so just stay here. Because this is something that it's required. It's a principle. It's a principle that's required for your provision. Okay. So now we go into the fourth, and I'm almost finished, right? Because I'm at the fourth one. The fourth principle that is required for provision is spoken faith. Spoken faith. Spoken faith. We cowered when it comes down to speaking up boldly about the things of God. We cower down about speaking up about what we believe God to do. Because you know what they say. I'm going to say it. Oh, I don't want to jinx anything. Well, wait. How can you jinx anything? If God be for you, then he's more than the world against you. You can't jinx what God has his hand on. You can't jinx that. It's just, it is what it is. So we have to be willing to speak it. We have to be willing to see it. We have to be willing to open up our mouths loudly and declare the works of God, right? Because faith calls those things that's not as though they were. We have to step up. We have to shift that atmosphere. And we do that not just in our dancing, not just in our, we want to cut a two-step, a sanctified two-step. No, but sometimes we speak it into the atmosphere. We set it up. Okay, we set up the atmosphere by our words. So there has to be a spoken faith. Stagger not at the promises of God. Don't focus on your limitations, right? And your shortcomings. It's not about what you can bring to the table other than your faith, right? It's other than your faith. You don't have to bring anything else to the table because God is going to do the work. It says, so don't focus on your limitations. Don't focus on your shortcomings, but be strong in faith and give God the glory. Give God the glory because of the fact that he's going to do it. It says, I'm persuaded that he who promised is able to perform it. So you got to be able to speak it. And we see here in the principles, right? And again, the book of Genesis, the 22nd chapter, that Abraham spoke it. When his son looked at him and said, hey, I get it. I see the wood, right? I see, the fire, but where is the sacrifice? Where is the lamb? And Abraham spoke up to his son, right? This is his faith speaking. And he said, God will provide himself a lamb for this offering. God will provide. Now, Abraham did not have that guarantee because God never told him that I will provide you anything. God told him to just go and sacrifice your son. But faith spoke because Abraham knew what God had promised him. He knew what God had promised him. Now I'm at my fifth provision, okay? Here is my fifth provision, okay? So understand one of the principles. So it requires, watch this, fear. It requires reverence of God. Okay, provision requires reverence, or in some words, is translated as fear of God. You must believe that he is God, not that there is a God, but that he is God. You must believe that. You have to get it down in your soul. I mean, to the point where it's almost as though you are crazy with how you believe that he is God. The word in the book of Proverbs says he loved those who love him, right? And those who seek him find him. You can't find a God that's not there, but God is always there, right? He's always around. He never leaves us. He never forsake us, so you gotta say, Lord, I'm going to surrender all to you. I'm going to give it all to you, because he's sitting back in the cut talking about some prove me. Try me. Those are words God used. Prove me this day. Try me. If God be God, if God be God. I love that. If God be God, and watch this, he is God. So you have to reverence God. You do this with respect of God. You do this recognizing that he is God. And here it is, you guys. So Abraham, and again, in the 22nd chapter of Genesis, we find that he reverenced God. It was then when Abraham stretched out his hand, right? And then he took the knife and he drew back and he was about to kill his son. Then did we see the angel of God, the angel of the Lord, call out to him and say, don't touch him, for now I know that you fear God. And so often God is waiting to see, are we willing to sacrifice that thing that we love? That we love, that's more important to us than life itself, and so often it could be our children, it could be our jobs, it could be our spouses, it could be your boyfriend, your boo thing, whatever we're calling people these days. It could be whatever. But are you willing? So we'll draw back the knife, right? And we'll put on the facade like we're in a sold out sacrifice moment. We'll put on the facade like we are, but in our hearts, because we heard him say that God will provide a lamb, that's been fed down to us from generation to generation, but there's no fear. Right? There's no fear. And it was then when the fear was recognized, when the fears came up, and when the fear was manifested, that the angel of God spoke and said, now that we know you fear God. See, we haven't yet received the ram because we don't have fear. We don't have the provisions. We don't have the principles of the provision, right? We want to get to the provision, but we don't want to have the principles. We have to have those in line in order to get to the provision. We have to be obedient. We have to be patient. We have to have the right connections. Some of us are connected to people that are nothing more than a curse on our lives. Nothing more than a curse. Some of us are connected to people right now that are nothing more than a curse on us. It's no different than when the Philistines had the Ark of the Covenant in their possession. They were cursed. And some of us are God's people, but we're sitting in the wrong house. We're sitting in the wrong place. We're sitting in the wrong seat. We're not where we're supposed to be. And there's a curse on us. And you got to get yourself connected to the right people. And then you got to start speaking by faith. You have to start speaking by faith. And then I would also like to say, when you speak by faith, you demonstrate by faith. You show me what you do, and I'll tell you what you believe. So you got to speak by faith. I'll never forget in September when I drove by myself with the Lord, amen, had my praise and worship music going. And I drove from Chicago, Illinois, and I drove all the way to Philadelphia, right? And I'm talking about that was a long drive. And I drove straight through. And my faith told me I was going to get there because I knew what I needed to do when I got there. Amen. I knew what I needed to do when I got there because it was already shown, right? I needed to be there. I needed to represent my tribe. I need to represent my daddy for my uncle, Bishop Burnell's birthday. So I had purpose. Amen. So I spoke that by faith. You understand? So faith, getting on the road was my demonstration of that faith. And then we have to fear God. We have to fear God. We have to fear him more than we fear man. We don't make a move because we're so afraid of what people are going to say and what people are going to think and what people are going to do. Who's going to leave me? Who's going to stay with me? What difference does it make? Like, really, real talk, what difference does it make if they leave? Because you're not connected to them by way of your source. Can I pause? You're not connected to them by way of your source. They may be a resource, but they are not the source. When you are connected to the source, had Abraham had to sacrifice his son, I'm for sure that God would have raised up another. He would have done it because that's the kind of God we serve. So don't get caught up in what you're going to have to give up. Can I say that again? Because that sounded good. Don't get caught up in what you got to give up, because when you're willing to give it up, that's when you're going to gain. That's when you're going to see the provisions. Blessings come and go, but it is the blessings of the Lord that maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. I know people right now today that are blessed. They look blessed, but they're unhappy. They're unhappy. Why? Because where's their sacrifice? Where was God in the middle of that? Where was God? Because when God does it, he does it well and he does it right. Where was God? You got to be willing to give it up. You got to be willing to give it all up in order to get the provision. Provision is ours, you guys. Manifestation for 2018 is upon us. It's here. It is here. And what God has for you, we like to say what God has for me is for me. That's true. It is for you. But are you willing to do what you need to do so you can get it? Are you willing? We just want the blessings. We just want it. We just want it to come to us. And I'm not just talking about money. Please understand, because I'm not a money type of preacher. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your flesh. I'm talking about your job. I'm talking about your children. I'm talking about your spouses. We want all this stuff to come to us. All of these great things. But we don't want to sacrifice nothing. We don't want to be obedient. We don't want to be patient. We don't want to let go of some people. Let go of some people that we know mean us no good. Mean you no good. Listen, if I got to stumble every time you and I are together, then you are not for me. I got to leave you here. You stay here. Stay here. It's okay. You stay here. So we got to be willing to let go of some people. And then we got to speak by faith. Don't you worry about, quote unquote, jinxing anything. Because it's God. God is in control. It all belongs to him. He's just waiting to see, because it says, now that we know, so you got to fear him. Now that we know you fear God, the provision came. It was then that the provision came. It was only then that you saw the provision. It was only then that he saw the lamb. It was only then. Get it for 2018. I told you, I'm not going to be before you all long going forward. I'm just not. It's not. I'm going to say what I got to say. And I love my producer because that's what you're supposed to do. I'm going to say what I got to say. And then I'm going to sign off. Amen. You can always go back. You can catch it on intellectualradio.com. You can catch it on Facebook Live. You can even catch it on YouTube, you guys. So pass it on. Share it with somebody. Okay? Because we're talking about the provisions, right? We're talking about the provisions that God has for us. But there's principles. There are principles that need to be followed in order to get the provision. Principles that need to be followed. You just can't expect for God to just move on your behalf. And don't get me wrong, God is a just God, right? And God just, he has no respect of person. He will reign on the just as well as the unjust. But I'm talking about the greater of God, right? Because I really do believe that our blessings come in levels, right? You can get that $20 an hour job, right? Because the favor of God is on you. To God be the glory, because God is not going to see you out suffering because of his promise, maybe to your mother and father, maybe to your grandmother. So he's not going to see you out there suffering. But I'm talking about when you have a relationship with God. So God can take you from that $20 an hour job and God can bless you with that $100 an hour job. Are you hearing me? Because there's levels to that favor. Because God will do what he's going to do just because he remembers his promise. Right? He remembers his promise. I can't lie. So I'm going to just bless you because I said I would. But we're talking about another level of blessings. And that's where we have to follow the principles because we want the greater of God. We want the greater of God in 2018. No lack. There ought to be no lack. There ought to be no lack when you follow the provisions of God. And I tell you, I'm not just talking about sowing money. I'm not talking about just sowing money. I'm talking about sowing your time. I'm talking about sowing your sweat. I'm talking about be willing to give up some things that really mean something to you. You know, woman, you got that dress that cost you maybe $500. You've only worn it once. You've only worn the shoes once. And you got the sister over here who needs a blessing, right? And you keep hearing it in your spirit to give her that dress. You understand what I'm saying? You keep hearing it. Give her that dress. Give it to her. Don't ask her for nothing in return. Give it to her. That's what I'm talking about. The principles, being obedient, right? You got that car that you're not driving and you know your neighbor down the street is sitting on the bus and the Lord is telling you to give that to them. Give it to them. Following the principles so you can get the provision. That's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about just paying your tithes and your offerings. That's not what I'm talking about today. I'm truly talking about following the principles. There's principles, obedience. It's in Genesis 22nd. I'll say it again, the 22nd chapter, the first through the 18th verse. Read it all because there's some good stuff up in there, even what God did for them after. What he did for Abraham after. It not only blessed Abraham, but it blessed his seed. And not only blessed his seed, but it blessed all of us. See, when you follow the principles, and talking about the principles of provision, it's not just you that's getting blessed. It's not just your seed that's getting blessed. It's not just your seed that's getting blessed, but it's those that are connected to you that are going to get blessed. Okay? Those that are connected to you. It's a residual. It's going to just continue to feed down to those that are connected to you. And I declare that in 2018, those that are connected to me, those that are connected to my voice via IntellectualRadio.com, those that are connected to me via Facebook Live, those that are connected to me, I'm going to follow the principles. I'm going to follow the principles in 2018, and I'm going to let it go, whatever I need to let go, so that I can get the provision, because that provision is not just for me. But I'm trying to help you get blessed. So if I follow it, then I know you're going to get it because you're connected to me. Amen. So listen, you guys, this is Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com, as well as Facebook Live, on iHeartRadio, as well as YouTube. My God, we are everywhere. And I just thank God for that in 2018, understanding the platform that the Lord has called me to. Watch this. I don't talk to everybody. My voice isn't assigned to everybody. If I'm fortunate enough to get, 3 people that log in and watch, I thank God for those 3, because those are the 3 that season that God has me assigned to. So I am humbled by that. I thank you for tuning in, because you don't have to. I thank you for the ones that tune in on Facebook, because you don't have to. And I just thank Earl, my producer, for having this beautiful studio for me to be able to come to every Sunday and to use this as a platform to get the word out that God has given me to share with his people. So again, I thank you for it. I thank you for my friends that have sown seed into the ministry. They like to remain anonymous. I bless you. I thank you for just blessing me because you want to encourage me to continue. I thank you for those that have prayed. So you guys, again, this is 2018. This is our first show of the year. Please feel free to share it because it definitely is a word for you to take in and to take a hold of. I want to just take two things really quick. My music was playing, you guys. Love you all for tuning in. Today is one of my little sisters, Dolce Ray's birthday. And I just celebrate you, little woman of God. And I just pray nothing but great blessings on you in this year of 2018 to you, your husband, as well as your children. My nephew that's overseas in Japan, he's a Marine. And of course, to your daughter, just blessings to you guys. Long life. May God continually bless you richly. And of course, to my other siblings, I love you guys as well. Thank you all for your support, encouragement, and motivation. I appreciate you. And listen, if you are looking for a church home, I'm inviting you to come join us, come worship with us at Restoration Tabernacle Bible Church at 8001 South Ashland, where our pastor is Bishop C.L. Johnson and our lady is Lady Tabitha Johnson. We will love on you to be restored because guess what? We've been down for too long, people of God. And I'm talking about down for too long, getting watered down words being spoke to us, being told to get in $100 give lines and all that other stuff. Listen, pull out all the gimmicks. No more gimmicks. No more gimmicks. I'm not coming to you with gimmicks. I'm coming to you with something real, and it's going to be quite raw for 2018. So those of you that want it that way, stay tuned. For those of you that don't, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Love you in 2018. You guys be blessed, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.